So looking ahead to this season, it'll be, pretty intense considering the past couple of years you haven't had a full season yet. Obviously, 2020 got cut short, and then last season got cut early as well with some things going on. But now you have the full season. You've got the entire schedule. Fingers crossed everything goes well, but for a lot of these guys, you think of the sophomores and juniors, haven't played a full season of college lacrosse yet, and this is now their opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it's going to be something where we might see a wall. We might see some things coming up that we just have to navigate that they haven't felt yet, and that's for some of the guys who have done that, but 2 years ago. So everyone's kind of going through it again, either for the first time or the first time in a while. So we'll navigate that. We might have a day where we try to put the swim trunks on and jump in the pool a little bit and mentally reset, or maybe we'll go bowling another time and see if somebody can take down the high score. But the idea is it's going to be something we have to navigate. Everyone's going to be going through that to some extent across Division 1, 2, and 3 and all the teams that are playing out there. So we're excited to have 17 games, to have that option on our schedule, to be hopeful to be playing all of them, and hopeful to punch a ticket to the ECC championship is kind of where we want to be this season as far as painting a picture for our goals. But staying in the moment, it's just about kind of winning each day, and I'm excited to have everyone thinking about those goals again, because even last year it was like I just want to play the next game. So to be able to realistically think about those goals is a lot of fun, and making practice really intense.
You look at the early part of this season schedule and opening up with a tough home game against Lake Erie, who's given us a couple of really good games the last couple of years, and 1-goal wins for us. And then the next week to number 3 Tampa down in North Carolina, a very tough matchup, a very good team. The team doesn't come back home from that February game until April. So it's going to be a lot of road games, battle tested, a lot of long trips. How is that going to prepare the team setting up and getting into the ECC schedule to have, those first couple tough games, and then being on the road for so long where you can focus on maybe some team bonding and getting used to those long trips, and then you can come back home for the latter half of the schedule?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. That's what it's all about. The road trips really bring you together more than ever. You're on a bus, you're watching the movies, that coach is picking, or that we give some of the captains the chance to pick a few of them as we go on those longer trips, and you get to see a little bit more about the people and what movie they pick, who they are, and some of the guys, how they can sleep on the bus, and it's impressive how they can just get on the bus, close their eyes, and take some Z's, and other people just, coach, you can't pull it off. So you get to know people more, and that's where the difference comes. Once you get to know the people, you can trust each other and start to do things more than just for myself or for the team. It's for each other. So I think that's what the trips will do for us. Doesn't make it any easier to pull off those trips and go play those teams, because all those trips are against quality opponents while they're also trips away from home. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Again, I think the way the preseason started of us kind of coming together and helping each other is going to be the model of that, where if that keeps going the way it's going, those will be really great trips for us to hopefully pull off a bunch of wins, if not great learning experiences for those ECC trips. And we're going to be on the road a handful of times against really good opponents in the ECC. Should we punch our ticket to the ECC championship, that's likely going to be on the road with how that operates. So it's going to be a good test for us to see what we're made of, but also prepare for the likelihood of, if we reach our goals, what we're going to have to pull off later in the season.
We get into the team and itself and some of the players, and looking first at the attack of some guys that are coming back. And we look overall at the team. There's a lot to replace from last year, with a lot of guys taking their 5th years, but now getting into this year and some young guys that are going to have to step up a lot. And Bubba Love and Austin Sipes, 2 guys that come to mind that really stepped up last year in some moments. Joey Boros as well, Gavin Chattal, just to name a couple. But those guys now are kind of the leaders in that attack group in terms of the playing experience and what they bring back.
Absolutely. One of the other pieces there on the attack side is Jake Bowman's going to be moving from the midfield down to attack, and he's guys been playing a ton, with that first line midfield, and he's got a lot of experience making plays, so he's got a good poise. But Bubba Love was ECC Rookie of the Year last year, so he's gotten to get his nose, in the mix a little bit, and then performed really well, and he seems ready for the role that he's stepping up into. Austin Sipes is a rock star in everything he does, and he's really, really thriving in the man-up spots that we're putting him in, and competing a lot with Gavin Chattal, who is just the toughest little firecracker, if I have to put a term to it. Just runs so hard, plays so tough, creates so much by the cage. So he's a really crafty guy. And that unit with Tyler Dooley added to the mix, a transfer from Wingate, one of our lefty guys, a real great shooter, dynamic, tough Dodger for his size as well, and doing an awesome job just coming together as a unit, finding their opportunities, and they'll all contribute somewhere, somehow. Joey Boros will be running up in the midfield a little more, and he is claiming his name to be a little more of the two-way U factor than the more of the attack. He's a physical specimen, works his tail off in the weight room, is really a smart, lacrosse player in every sense and skilled. Is an attackman that's picking up the two-way side of things for the midfield, and he's going to be dangerous. I think he's going to have somewhat of a breakout year for us. So we're excited for all those guys to showcase what they've been showing at practice now on the live streams, in the games, and the stuff that kind of goes in the scoreboard, because we know they're ready. They've been doing it since they've gotten here, so now it's time for them to do it with the lights on, so to say.
We get into the midfield then, and you mentioned Joey going to move up a little bit, and a lot of talent there coming back, and headlighting that. Tanner Donaldson, who was an All-American last year, just brings a lot of energy into that unit. Evan Deere as well, just a little spark plug as well. Ty Olerking, Griff Acker, just some of the guys that really just give energy to that group, and a key part of your unit with the way that you like to press teams up the field on their clearances and then working back defensively as well. Just a super, super hard-working unit.
I think that's the definition of the midfield, and that's what we ask of them is the four-letter word grit. That's a dirty word, and we like it, and it's grit all day for those guys where they're going to be tired. We want them to be selfless in the sense of, hey, I'm tired, next guy up, because we have a lot of good, talented midfielders. But we also want to make sure that they're challenging themselves to play tired and make tough plays, and we trust them to be aware of who they are and how they operate, and they trust us to, if we make a call to pull them off, it's for the reasons that we're talking about of we're deep, we're talented, and your turn's coming next time up. And as tough and important as those guys are, they've been, like we've said, selfless in getting some of these other pieces to the puzzle, like Brady Crumbacher could be a new name and a new face that I think we're really excited to see come up to the mix. Chase Buckwalter is playing really well. Conor Tullis is another big, strong, gritty midfielder. Matt Ward has only been producing since his first year, and almost gets shadowed by some of the talent we do have in the midfield. But he's just an outstanding player who's also trying to pick up more of the two-way role and just challenging himself. So Justin Hulst, if I miss somebody, it's going to be because we have too many of the guys. But Justin Hulst is another one who's a Swiss Army knife, plays little man down, can play little man up, takes the wings, second line midfield, backdoor defensive midfield. Just, if we gave him a long pole, he'd probably do just fine. If we put him in the goal, I think he'd be happy enough to, have a role and try to make a play. Just can't say enough about all those midfielders, because it's sometimes the guys who do all the dirty work so the attackman can put a ball or two in the net. Those attackmen do ride their tails off. They're gritty guys too, but there's nothing that compares to being a midfielder for the Frostburg State Bobcats. And Griffin Acker is a guy who's been playing defense for us and rock-solid defense. We're hoping to see him showcase his righty cannon, because he does have a pretty hard shot when he lets it rip in the shooting drills and transition drills, and just now opportunity showing a little bit more for him in his number one role, his leadership role for the team here, and really excited to just see where that comes and where that goes, because just so deep, so talented, and just so about the team, and can't ask anything more of them.
You talked a lot about grit and toughness, and one unit that also exemplifies that is the defense this year. Luke McCullough, a guy that stepped up big time last year, coming back. Matt Sharkey, who was the preseason ECC Defender of the Year last year. A couple other guys, Warren Evans and Jake Sprecher, some guys that also contribute in there. And that's a unit where you have to replace a couple of key pieces from last season, but have enough coming back where you think they showed enough last year to know what you're going to get from them this year.
Almost certainly. The guys that you mentioned are tested and proven and showing great stuff, and two of them are actually not going to be able to compete with some injuries that have come up, so it's going to be tough where we're still evolving as a unit because of that, and not have Matt Sharkey's leadership and playmaking abilities is going to be a nightmare as far as filling the gap, filling the shoes, as nobody can be him, but we can fill people that play really well in their own role and what they do. Warren Evans was playing outstanding before. He's going to take this year to get back on his feet, and we're going to miss them tremendously, but still great teammates at practice, coaching them up and giving their experience to the new guys who are getting their roles. And you'll see Jake Sprecher, as you mentioned, Luke McCullough, and Pete Carmilowicz kind of being the lead of the defensive unit as the close defense, and they have really come together and become, in the kindest way possible, vicious. They're a vicious group of guys that play the defensive position, in my opinion, the right way. Physical but fair. It's not something we're playing dirty, but we're playing to come at you and affect you, and those guys do it really, really well. And we have a lot of fun watching them get after it. The offense and defense chess match is just outstanding. Jeff Day, Ryan Tyler are some returners at the LSM position that we haven't seen just yet, but have been making plays through practice, same as those others attackmen that we've talked about, and they'll get some time to shine. And there's a young guy, Seamus Kearney, who's come in, and really, really shined in his athletic abilities, his playmaking ability. He's a big athletic dude who's really challenged himself to be precise on the off-ball defensive concepts, and he's escalated his game a lot with the help of those Warren and Sharkey guys helping him out. So a few names that we may not have mentioned, but really it's going to be a unit that's a lot of heads, get to play a lot of ways, and another selfless unit. But those three guys at close defense have come a long way, and they're going to anchor us a bit in front of Kev Ruther.
Yeah, sort of a theme this year of the amount of depth that you have, just sort of a theme this year of the amount of depth that you have, just unable to mention every single name possible. But you just mentioned him in the goalkeeper position, Kevin Ruther, sort of the understudy to Jack Marks, who had a superb career here for so many years, and he's going to step up. Mitch Meckley also comes back, brings some experience there, and you got some freshman goalkeepers as well. But it's going to be Kevin's time now to really step up and make that position his own.
Yeah, and he has. He's been the understudy to Jack, and so has Mitch. They've been just an outstanding goalie unit where everybody wants to be number one. It's a really unique position where you don't sub goalies through the box. That's you don't have as deep as you are. That's just not a rotation you run almost ever. So they've had some depth at that position for a long time, and they've competed all the way through. And now it's Kev versus Mitch as far as the returners fighting for that spot, and both have done an outstanding job. If either of them were a starting goalie, we'd be in great shape. And Kev kind of has nudged that one out a little bit and earned his chance to be who he is as far as a leader for our team. But also the stopper for our team, and really he's a poise behind those guys where they bring the chaos a little bit and he brings the calm a little bit. It's a really good balance for those guys to be what we need them to be, which is playmaking, but also consistent. I think they're finding that chance to go out and be aggressive, but have the control to make sure they can do it repeatedly and over 17 games, because we talked about in the beginning, it's going to be a longer season than we're used to, and the way we play can be tiring. So our depth and that poise that hopefully Kev and that unit will find, along with our offense, finding balance and limiting the turnovers is going to be important. Our style is fun and fast and free, but we say it all the time, we want to avoid playing sprints. We run sprints to play our style. We don't want to play sprints within our style, and make sure that we're efficient in that. So Kev does a good part of efficient outlets. He throws ropes when they need to go. He makes the right decision when he needs to go to a wing, and he's just a wall in there. He's a big frame who plays his angles well, and we're excited to see him do his thing.
Final position group here in the face-off guys, and Sammy Natwig, a guy that's going to have to be replaced from last year, another guy who had a fine career. I don't think you can replace his character in the locker room. He certainly had that on lock. But guys are going to have to step up this year and last year in a couple of situations. We talked already. Evan Deere and Luke McCullough stepped in a couple times. Who's going to be sort of the leader or leaders in that face-off group to be able to win one of the most important positions on the field?
Yeah, it's going to be something where there is no lead horse right now. We're going to have a lot of people that are contributing each and every day, but our leader of the group, so to say, is Cade Price, who's really taken the senior leadership of organizing some young talented guys, and him being a guy who's coming back from an injury himself and kind of reorganizing himself of what it means to train and compete through a whole season. So we're excited to see him step up in that leadership role, and he's right now leading the pack. He's the most consistent. He's competing in the defensive end and making good decisions with the ball, and we're excited to see him take some of that and run with it, hopefully. And we want a lead dog, but we don't necessarily need one. We just need the consistent opportunity to win the ball, and those guys to also be selfless and know it's sometimes matchups, it's sometimes the way you woke up on that side of the bed, and what officials are blowing the whistle. It's so many elements that go through the goods and the bads of that face-off position. So they've done a good job of becoming a unit and not just competing for that spot to replace Sammy, and that's what it's going to be. So I think Cade Price again has done a great job. He's going to be a name you hear a lot at the X. Alex Wallstrom is a physical specimen himself. He is a big, strong, athletic guy who's a different type of. He's almost like the Sammy, build. He's a different type of beast there, where he's, square in the shoulders. You almost can't run around him, so to say, and also athletic and quick on his feet. So he's a first-year guy who's kind of getting the flow in college lacrosse, and really has stepped it on of late. So we're hoping to see continue, and those two guys compete a lot at that position. Evan Deere will scrap it up at the X whenever we ask of him. He does so much for us already. Man down defense, backdoor defense, clearing on the ball. He takes a lot of wings, and then he'll take some face-off. So you'll hear his name there and elsewhere. Also, Tristan Anderson is another name that you'll hear kind of in a similar role to Evan. He's a face-off guy. He can play a little defense. He'll scrap it up, mix it up. We also give those long poles the 6 inches of tape on their stick, and every chance we need to, we'll throw a long pole out there for a changeup. But I think the 1-2 punch you're going to see a lot this year is Cade Price being a really poised leader that's going to have some control, and Alex Wallstrom could be our shotgun, where we might be able to kind of go on a quick run if he kind of heats up. So we're excited to see that unit come together, but those 1-2 guys will really kind of lead the pack.
You spoke about it earlier in this interview, getting into the ACC now, and a conference that's a little bit weird for us in that we haven't seen essentially half the teams that we're going to play against, and just the quirks of the schedule, how it worked out the past couple of years. And obviously the big one that a lot of people are going to circle on their calendars, that Mercy game, the last regular season home finale to a top 10 team in the country and a team that has run the ECC. But, a couple of other talented teams at the top, and you got, Roberts Wesleyan is a group that really made strides last year and has a lot of talent there as well. But looking at this conference, it's kind of wide open in terms of you have Mercy, who a lot of people consider the leader at the top, and then behind them it's really a big battle for who's going to get fighting for playoff positions.
Yeah, you've named the teams for sure at that top of the pack, and to add DUville to the conference is going to be great to have another program to grow and compete with us there. Malloy's got a new coach with Coach Bill Dunn, who's a seasoned guy who's going to probably bring that program to a new competitiveness for themselves. And Roberts Wesleyan this year brings back a lot of talent this year. A team that played us really tough last year has really grown up as a program over the years, and now receiving votes, kind of getting their names into that national ranking. And Mercy is what they are. They're at the top 5 in the nation. They're a national championship contender, let alone a conference contender. So it's great. It's great for us to be in that mix, to hopefully be in those conversations of who's going to be in that 1, 2, 3, 4 conversation for the conference championship. We got to make sure that we're not, as much as we set our goals and think about that championship and we want to hunt that down because we haven't had that chance yet, we got to stay in the moment, got to stay in the present, and use the learning opportunities from Lake Erie, from Tampa, and from the spring break trip, and from the Chestnut Hill game and all the games we have going up to the conference lineup, to make sure that we're ready, ready to go ahead and play teams that, no matter what we see on tape, it's always going to be a notch up because it's a conference game. And we're still the new guys on the block that are trying to pave our way, and they're trying to fight us off. So it's going to be some really hard-fought battles. That those two games, Malloy and Roberts, we got to make sure that we're not looking past or anything or underestimating, because those two teams bring back a lot of talent. Those two teams are in the playoffs last year, and we got to uproot them. They've made it to the playoffs. We have to do that before we can really hang our flag on anything, so to say. So that's what we're looking to do. And I think we have a season and a schedule set up to prepare ourselves for it, challenge ourselves. It's one of the toughest schedules in the nation. And hopefully we can perform within that and get ourselves ready to go and push for a championship.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today to talk about your team. We're certainly excited for you for this season to watch Bobcat Lacrosse here for a full season for really the first time at Division II. So we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, well, the men's lacrosse opens their season this Saturday at home against Lake Erie, so be sure to tune in for that one. That'll be on the Frostburg Sports Network. So thank you once again, and as always, go Bobcats.